and today we are going to discuss about the data pages. So first we'll try to understand what is data page and what purpose we use in PEGA. Okay, so let's understand first what is called data page. So data page, before going to discuss about this topic, do you know the memory? Like what do you call a memory? What is called memory? Akshay, Aboli? What is
Like
called? Yes.
memory, we can store like any type of
We can store some information or data, right?
yeah, correct.
Yes. So in PEGA, we have two types of memories. One is temporary memory, another one is permanent memory. What do you think about temporary memory and permanent memory? What does it mean?
Like a temporary means uh, it is
For
like
temporary, it means it holds the data for specific period of time, right? It's not
yeah, correct.
going to store completely, right? It's not going to store
Hmm.
permanently, right? So that is
Hmm.
called temporary memory. We usually. If it is permanent memory means you are going to store the data in the database. Whatever the database you are having, right, you are going to store the data into the database. So that is called permanent memory, right? So why we are discussing this temporary memory and permanent memory? Because in PEGA we use the data pages as per the memory purpose. So this data page is going to work like a cache memory for to store the data temporarily in the clipboard level. Okay, so you can say like normally temporary memory is like before going to start these data pages, right, we know only one rule, that is called clipboard, to store the temporary memos, right? Now permanent memory is the one usually we used to store our data information, like whatever the case information we used to store, right? That is a permanent memory. Now here is the part which we are discussing about the retrieval purpose. Normally, yesterday what we have done, we used to fetch few of the countries. So we are maintaining one data type where we can store our customer related informations and we can store other tables, right? So we can keep a table and we can store multiple informations over there. So yesterday what we tried some try to keep some customer information like 500 records or 1000 records. Now I want to fetch one person's record based on their ID. So in that case, this retrieval part will come into the picture. So for that retrieval part, we have already discussed about the report definition. So what report definition will do? It will run in the backend and some SQL queries will pass to the table, respect to table. It will get the information by passing some parameters, right? So in the same way, data page is going to work for the retrieval purpose. So here, after retrieving the details, how you are utilizing that, there we will use this data pages concept. Okay, let me give one example how data pages is going to work. Let's say, so we'll think about one scenario. Let's say I have one scenario, we used to interact with the applications, right? So some of the applications in your mobile or in your laptop which will give you more information about, let's say you are into some other application like any health insurance application, if you are using Apollo or something, right? So there your all the information will be stored. Sometimes they will have some other one button or one of the link, like where you can see your all policies, where you can see all your documents, where you can see all of your reports, where you can see all of your information. So these information it is going to get every time whenever you click on the link or button, right? This will go and interact with some other database. It will retrieve the information whatever the whoever the log users is logging. So their information it will pass to the external database, it will interact with the external system, it will give the results and it will display to you. So each time whenever you're trying to click on that button, right, these interaction will be there, right? So it will be more. Every time records will go and hit the database, it will send the request and it will take the response from back from the database and it will give you the results. So this way, every time these kind of functionalities will work. Okay, so to avoid this multiple kind of hitting the database, hitting these connections. So if one user is coming to the onboarding and he's trying to get the results, let me take one example, like Let's say in my application level, I'm trying to display few of the properties, the drop downs like country, state, city. So I want to load all the countries whenever user is clicking on the drop down. I want to display all the states whenever user is trying to click on the drop down, and cities as well. So every hitting, I want to run the data page, or I want to run the report definition to fetch the information from the table. Okay. So while hitting the data from the table, this backend is all the SQL queries, and all queries will run, and it will give the results back, right? So every time this hitting process is not correct. This is not appropriate one, hitting the database every time. Each on interaction, you should not hit the database again and again. To avoid this one, we have this data pages concept. Okay. So this data page is what it will do. First time whenever you're requesting for some data, right? So at that time, it will use some kind of sources like report definition or data transform or any kind of connector rules. It will use as a source to get the information. After you get the information, that information, it will be stored temporarily. Next time whenever you are trying to get the same trying to retrieve the same data, right? rather than going and ex- Rather than going and fetching the data from the table, first it will look into the internal table. I mean to say, it will look into the temporary memory. Let's say, let me give an example. You are trying to click one button, so this button is going to provide some information, or else I'm trying to. Yes.
Have you shared the screen?
Just a minute. Sorry, I'm sharing my screen. Just now I
Okay.
till now I haven't done anything. I just
Yeah,
showed
okay,
you
okay.
before that.
Hmm.
So let me take some kind of drop down. In this drop down, let's say whenever user is coming and clicking on this drop down, I want to display all the country information, all the countries related details I want to show. I have one more drop down. So in this drop down, what I want to do, I will display the states. Whatever the country respective states are present, those states only I want to display. In the same way, I want to show one more drop down, or drop down autocomplete, or whatever it is. So I just want to show the cities, whatever the state is selecting, whatever the country is choosing, right? Those information related cities I want to display. So in this case, what usually we used to do, we used to maintain in the property level. But property level, we cannot maintain huge data, right? That is the reason we created a data type that is going to maintain as an internal table, where we can store our all country, state, cities information. So to retrieve the part and displaying into the UI level, we can use this concept like data pages or report definition. Now, how the data pages will work, we'll see now. So data pages, what will happen? Data page is a cached memory or shared memory, already we discussed, right? It works like a cache memory, means it works like a temporary storage. It will store in clipboard temporarily whenever you hit the data. Let's say, I have 10 countries in my table. Okay, 10 countries in my table. So these 10 countries, if you want to retrieve from the table and display on the UI, definitely you need report definition. Report definition is the one which is going to retrieve the information from the database. After retrieving the data, what will happen? The retrieval information, it will store in the clipboard. Okay, under one page it will store, under one page list or page, it will store the data. So this data, if you want to maintain temporarily, definitely you have to use the data pages concept. Let's say right now it is 10 countries, right? So user is coming and clicking on the drop down. So once you click on the drop down, I'm giving the source as report definition or data page. Let's say I'm taking the source of data page. So every hitting, so data pages will use one source. That source can be report definition, that source can be data transform, and that source can be multiple things. So let me show you the data model and data page. So first we'll launch the application. Let's go back to the application. So I already initiated the project. So So data pages we can create under the data model category, guys. Okay, as you know, every time we'll discuss about the which class it is belongs to and what which way the which category it is mapping, right? So here data pages we can use and we can create under the data model category. If you go to records tab, right, under the data model category you can create the data pages. Okay, so once you click on the data page you can see multiple instances, like these are the existing data pages as of now we have in PEGA. So let's create one data page, or else I just want to take one of the OTB data page. Let me take this one. So this is PY all work, or else we can take something like consumers list. Okay, so in this data page, so this is how the data page will looks like, guys. So in this data page you have the data page definition and you have data sources. And remember, if there are multiple sources, the first part, if condition that evaluates to be true, this means we can create multiple sources also at a time as a data source. So what does it mean of data source? Why do we need to give the source here? You can see here the source is report definition. And also you may have lot of sources like connector, data transform, lookup, activity, robotic automation, desktop automation, and aggregate sources. So the source is called why. So data page cannot fetch the data from the database directly. Data page అంటే ఏంటంటే, so we can use only data page for the purpose of retrieval, and the data page is going to cache the memory, and this data page is for the storing the temporary purpose, right? So data page will use any one of the source to interact with the table to get the data. After you retrieve the data, this data page is going to work, and this data page is going to store the memory. Why do we need to store the memory? So why do we need to store the memory means, let's say user is coming and clicking on this drop down. I am trying to display 10 records by using the source of data page on the UI level. Whenever user is going to click, right, my report definition will run. This report definition will bring the data and it will retrieve from the database, and it will display. This is how report definition will work. So when I use the report definition as a source to data page, right, that retrieval, that 10 records is going to map to data page. So this data page is going to use the memory as a temporarily. It is using going to cache the memory to use temporarily. It will store in the clipboard in one place. So whenever again user is trying to click one more time, right, again report definition will run. But rather than running the report definition, this data page will, what it will do, first it will check in the clipboard whether the values are present or not. So cache memory importance is what? So how you used to Google it, whenever whenever you search for something in Google, right, next time when you're trying to search again, right, so it will show automatically whatever the searches you have done on the same name and all the things, right? Means whatever the history you're doing, whatever the things you're doing, Google is storing temporarily. Whenever you are coming for the same result again, whenever you are going to search for same thing, right, it is going to help you by giving the cache memory, right? In the same way, one time you are trying to retrieve the information from a report definition. So when you use the data page, this is going to store the data temporarily. Whenever the same request is going to come, right, in that case, this memory will be used rather than fetching the database. So what difference you may observe from report definition and data page? Report definition will hit every time interacting with the database, but data page will use the source of report definition. In the backend, report definition may run, but every time hitting that, multiple hits we can avoid. That is the reason most of the coding part will use the data pages rather than going with the report definitions. But in that data pages also, we may have multiple features like scopes, and we may have the structures, we may have the modes. Multiple features are available. So what does it mean of scope? So in what case we are going to use these data pages, and also we have multiple tabs like definition tab and load management tab. This load management tab also will discuss, where we can configure our refresh strategies when it has to refresh, how to clear that temporary memory, that cache memory, those things. And we have parameters tab where we can mention the parameter. I will show you one practical there, you can understand. And also pages and classes, this is the importance of this one. We'll understand like how to implement these pages and classes to utilize. And as well as we will have the response data transform and also post load conditions and preload conditions. Okay, I want to go one by one. So before that I just want to say you, like every time we'll discuss about the class, right? So data page, what is data page? First we should know that what is data page, why do we use it, what is the scope. Data page, as I mentioned, data page is a cached memory and shared memory which is going to maintain in the clipboard whenever some request is going to come, right? Data pages will use some source to retrieve the information. Whatever the retrieval part is going to come, right? Those information it will store temporarily. Whenever the same request is going to come, right? It is going to get the information from the clipboard rather than fetching the database again. So in this kind of things also there are multiple scenarios. Maybe data might be changed in the backend. Let's say now when while retrieving part you have 10 records, but tomorrow, not tomorrow, let's you just retrieve the part, then again it updated like 20 records or 30 records. So if you are depending on your temporary memory, right, those records will not come, right? So there is some kind of business functionalities also there, business requirements are there. So based on that we can change it. We are going to see that in scopes. Now I just want to inform you like what class it belongs to. These data pages are data instances. Okay, we have rule instances as well as data instances. So now these data instances, like when this is class belongs to rule declare pages. Data page is an instance class of rule declare pages, and these data pages we can create under the data model category. In this data model category we can create the data page concept. Now we can create the data page. Now let's understand how to use this data page, and also we'll understand how to create this report definition, what report definition we have to use, and what are the scopes and modes. So first we'll go to theoretical wise. Okay, so we'll go with the theory part, then we'll go with the practical one. Now let's understand what are the things are there over here in the first one. Let's go with the structure. Okay, now guys, any doubts you have? Do you want to clarify anything?
No.
Okay, so just let me know what is called page. Here you can see two options are present, right? Structure. There are two options. One is page structure, another one is list structure. So you might not know about list, but you know about the page, right? Last time we used for the properties. Akshay, what do you mean page? What is called page and page list? Okay, so let me take this point. So page is the one where you can store your all the properties and property related informations, and page list is the one where you can include all your pages. Let's say I want to, so whenever you go for something dmart or somewhere, right? So where you see, when you see the bill, right, you may see some of the fields, like you may see the serial number, you may see the item, and also bill, like this, right? So every time on the serial number 1 2 3 4 these numbers will come in the items. You may have whatever the items you have purchased, and every items bill you can see on the right hand side. So here under one property you are going to store multiple informations. Every information is important for us. So under one property, if you are going to maintain multiple records, right, so this can be considered under the page list. So page is the one where you can store your information. Let's say already we have worked for the customer information, right? So customer information, why we have created the page? So because if you don't want to depend your properties on the clipboard on the work page level, PA work page level, if you want to maintain a separate page to avoid the unnecessary conflicts, right? So that is the reason we created a page. Under the page we called all the properties to utilize, right? So in the same way, here also you have the structures. If you want to retrieve single data, you can go with page. If you want to retrieve multiple data, you can go with the list. Let me take this example. Let's say I have 10 countries, right? So if you are fetching the data from the database, let's say, let me open the data type once. Let me go with the data type. So here we have one data type called country and one more data type called consumer. So last time we have seen like how to maintain the keys, right? So how to maintain the keys and how to maintain the report definition, and what kind of database it will be stored, and how to generate this global unique ID if you don't have anything to pass as a key. And as well as I have some countries. So let's say I have few countries, like these 5 countries are present, right? So Here these 5 countries I just want to display on the UI level under the drop down of country property. Now if you want to retrieve the data, if you want to retrieve only one information by passing the parameter, let's say here I have country code and country name. Let's say if user is trying to select something, if you are whenever you are trying to pass only one record based on your parameter called country code, if you want to get only one record, you can go with the page. But if you want to get the list of results, then you have to choose your type of data page as list. Okay, we'll see the page related practical separately, we'll see related practical separately. Okay, and object type. So whenever you create any rule, let me create a rule called report definition. Let's say any kind of report definition or any kind of property, if you create, right? So what it will happen, so whenever you create a rule, this will be created under one class, right? As well as whenever you create any kind of property also, let me take any kind of property, so this is also creating under a class. In the same way, data pages also can be created under class. Once you click on create, and you can create directly from here, or else you can choose your class where you want to create, or else you can directly take from the data model category and create it from here. So I want to create under the country class. So just if you want to open the country class and the left hand side, right? So app explorer, you can directly click on this and show in app explorer. If you select like this, those classes will be open on the left hand side in the app explorer. So here under the data model category, you can right click to here. If you create and click on this data page, right, automatically under this class, under the application rule set level, you can create one data page name. Let's say I want to fetch the data pages. I want to fetch the country database. So you can directly give the database name like fetch country database, countries, fetch countries. You can keep it like this. So create and open. Click on create and open. And once you click on create and open, right, you can see some kind of structure, right? So what structure do you want to follow? They have two structures. One is page structure and another one is list structure. So I want to retrieve only single record, then you can go with the page structure. If you want to retrieve list of results, then you can go with the list structure. Okay, we'll go with that once I configure the source, right? I will show you there. Now let me go to the next one is like object class. So wherever you are creating, right, here you can find out which class you are creating. Those classes will be captured here. And also guys, don't forget to maintain the history tab. Okay, why you created, whenever you create a rule, right? So what is the purpose of creation of this rule, you have to mention it. So let me take the description as let's say I'm creating a data page for, let's say, fetch countries, let's say, and this is used to fetch all the country data, countries information. Like this you need to mention the history, because next time whenever someone is going to modify this one, right, they should understand why, what purpose they created. And you can give some kind of modification like where you are using also, but we can identify that by using the references. So next one is modes. Okay, so and one more thing I just want to say you, whenever you create a data page, right, you can see you gave the name as fetch countries, but it is going to form like this way, d underscore fetch countries. So as I said, data page is the class of rule declare pages. So whenever you create a data page as fetch countries also, it will create one of the rule like d underscore on before your rule name. So data page is going to start with d underscore. So whenever you create a data page, whether it is page structure or list structure, whatever the type of data page, it is going to maintain this prefix in on the front side of your rule name. Okay, so it will start with d underscore. This is to be noted. And I just said, right, what is called page and page list. So let me give you some clarity. Let's say page is the one where you can maintain your properties. Let's say under this fetch under countries, right, I just want to create few things. Let me take few things, but it is not going to come under fetch countries, but I'm just trying to take few things like first name, and you can take like last name, age, let's say country, like something, some properties. If you want to maintain the properties under one page in the clipboard level, those properties are going to store under one page layer under the PEGA work page. But if you want to see the list structure, that list structure will be like this. Let's say every structure, let's say let me take one customer details. If I have something like under customer info, so customer info is going to get multiple results. So under the multiple results you may have some OTB property called PX results. under the first result Under the first result you may have the customer information like same thing, first name, last name, age, gender property in the under first results. And also you may have the two results under their information we are going to store. You may have three results. So each customer information you can store in the page structure. I will show you this, you can understand if I show you in the clipboard layer. So right now you can ignore this part, just remember how the page and page list is going to form. Okay, now I just want to just explain in theory ways, then after that we can see practical one. And so here if you see, you can see the modes. And if I open any kind of data pages in the clipboard level, every data pages is going to store separately. You may, you know, right, whenever you open some case or you when you open clipboard, you have separate pages, user pages and data pages, linked to property pages, system pages. We discussed already about this one. Under the data page you may have different scopes. Based on these scopes, some OOTB data pages will run under this one. So here these data pages are going to run, these data is running temporary storage, it is running in the back end. You may see this application stack and some other OTB data pages are running, right? Automatically these things will run. In the same way you can store the data. And if you want to see the results, right, so you can expand this one, you can see PX results. There is no results are present for this one. Let me take okay, this is also not having. So let's create one separately like d underscore thread list and px results. Yeah, you can see here under one data page it is having px results. Each of the result, 9 results are there, each of the result is going to have some information. So under one result means page list is going to hold the pages. These are 9 pages holding by this data page list, and each of the page is going to have the properties. Okay, so let's try to understand first about these modes and scopes, then we'll go with the parameter one. Now let me take the mode. So before going to start this mode and scope, right, I just want to show you how the sources are going to work. As I mentioned, data page cannot retrieve the data directly from the database or any kind of data type like internal tables. You need to use a source. That source can be connector. This connector we use mostly while fetching the information for the any integration concept, that kind of time we can use it. And also we have the data transform. This also we are going to use. I will explain the transform concept. If you want to get the data from some kind of by using data transform or any kind of report definitions, lookup and activity you can use. So these all things will use by like whenever the topic comes we'll use it. Already we covered the report definition, right? Let's try to use that report definition. If you open the country, you have one report definition, right? Yesterday we created one report definition called fetch countries list. So where we include our columns, and these are the columns it is going to maintain under the country columns, right? So these country columns when I give here, and I'm not providing any kind of filter conditions. When I do actions and run, right, so this is going to get the all the records, whatever the records are present, it is going to record fetch the results. So this is going to fetch the results in the list structure. That is the result. 5 results are present. So this results, just give me 1 minute. So these 5 results, it is it is already fetching the results of 5 results, right? So this report definition is already using to fetch this information. We can use this report definition as a source to our data page because both are in the same class, same country list class. So directly you can call the report definition of this fetch country list. When you click on drop down, all the results will come. So here you can find out fetch countries list. Once you click on this one, so this report definition is going to work, means whenever you run the data page, right? When, whenever you run the data page, this data page is going to use the report definition. So this report definition is going to retrieve the information. Once it will run the data and it will pass some queries to the respective database table and it will get the results. Whatever the results it is going to get, right? Those results it is going to pass to the data page. So data page is going to hold those values for temporarily in the clipboard. Whenever you give the source to any kind of drop downs, any kind of autocomplete, right? So it will get the data from the data page and as well as report definition. So next time whenever user is trying to click on the drop down, rather than depending on rather than hitting the database multiple times, first time it will store the data in a temporary way, and next time whenever the user is going to hit one more time, right? So that time it will use the temporary memory, it will give the only stored data. Now here one issue is coming, like response data transform is mandatory. Whenever you want to pass the, you are trying to get the results in the list structure, right? Because in the report definition already you have 5 results, so keep the structure as list, then this response data transform is not mandatory. And I will show you like what is the response data transform in the data transform class, and we'll try to interact with these data pages at the report definition, sorry, data transform, and I will show you at that time like how to call a data page into the data transform to utilize the data. Now once you create this data page, you are using the structure as list, means you are trying to store the data in the list structure. You have mentioned your class, leave about the mode and leave about the scopes, and you're using the source to fetch the information as a report definition. This is going to retrieve the data, and after this let's see how it is gonna work. Now once you click on actions and run, before running let's try to trace this. So tracer is the one of the debugging tool where you can see your all of the codings, like whatever the coding is going to run backend whenever you use this kind of routes. So when you want to trace something called report definition or any kind of data pages, right, go to settings and click on this db cache, db query, and also data pages. This is going to bring all of the results. Now let's try to run the data page. Once you click on data page, right, so once you click on run, it is going to form the structure like this, and you can see in the clipboard as well. First let me take this and I will stop the tracer. You can see this much data is running in the backend, and you can see this blue color and sky blue color one is the one where you are running your cache memory, cache hit is happening, and every time it is going to bring the results like this. Now so under the data page you can see lot of options. So here you have to observe one thing called px results. So under the data page, so this data page is going to create under the class of code PEGA list, where you can find out the property called px results. Under the px results you may have your all the results, like 1 to 5 records are present, right? So once you run the database, the database is going to run the report definition. Report definition will bring the results and give it to data page. So those 5 results data page will store under the px results. Each of the result is a page, so each page is going to have the property like country code and country name, whatever you are retrieving, and also your class and case key, PZNS key. So like this it is going to bring the information. So if you want to see this in the clipboard, you can open the clipboard, and you can see, let me search for the d underscore fetch countries. So here you just uh, minimize this one and open the data pages. Under the thread scope we created, right, so here you can see the fetch country. So under the clipboard, this one temporarily we are going to store, I said, right, so this temporary data page is going to create under the clipboard. Under the px results you can find out the pages. each page is going to maintain the each of the result. So now we'll understand how to utilize this data page in the screen level. So we have already created the screen, right, for work class. So let me open the work class. And in this work class I have created one of the section called user interface. So in this personal information is already present. So let me run a case. Under this one we have first name, last name, middle name, income. These all are the properties, right? Right now what we are doing under the country, we are passing the values by using property. You can see list source is coming, the results are coming by using a property. Under the property class you can open this country class, right? So you can even do search for in the global search. Once you search this one, right, in your application, search for exact match with the same name. Now under this property is there in multiple classes. You can find out which class you have created. And also we created under this page, right, customer info. So under the info page you are calling the country class, right? So let me open that property. And so let's open the property under this customer class. Now here right now we are giving the values by using local list. But how uh, but in real time we cannot provide the values like this, because it values can be anything, right? Like it can be many properties, right? So tomorrow if you want to change, you this property will get logged for the next versions you are going to deploy, right? This is not the way to maintain in the drop down value, so you need to maintain a separate table to store the data. So if you are getting any kind of updates, you can update in the tables by using data pages whenever you retrieve it, so those will get updated automatically. So let me remove these things, or else you just keep it none and save it. Now I am changing the values. Let's create a case. Here. So let me go back to the flow once. So right now we are running from the flow as the basics. So later we'll create the case steps and we'll do the changes. Now let's create on run. Now you can see country no values are present, because as we mentioned here, under the country we are removing the properties, right? And as well as under the personal details you are getting the results from the property level. That is the reason when I remove the property, automatically as defined on properties nothing is there, right? That's why you're not able to see any kind of values. But I want to take the values from the drop down, from the source of report definition. I want to get the details from the table. So in that case you can use our report definition or data page. Let me take this part. So here, once you click on the list source, right, you have three options. One is data page, second one is clipboard, third one is report definition. By using these three sources you can retrieve the information from the table. So I will explain you about the clipboard page as well, but right now we'll try to focus on report definition and data pages. So first we'll try to utilize the report definition. We have the report definition, right? You need to mention which class it is belongs to. So our report definition is this one, right? Fetch countries list. So you can mention this fetch countries list, and you can mention the class name as well. Now what we'll do, so we'll go back to the section report definition, whatever the class you are having, right? Let me take BDL, FW, Scotia Bank. This is the class I have my report definition. When you mention this class, right, automatically your report definition, whatever it is present, it will be displayed. Select your respective report definition, and here the another concept is there called parameters. I will show you tomorrow that. Now after you retrieve the information of these results, let's say if I run the report definition, which property is holding which value? First of all, what do you want to display? What is your purpose of showing in the UI level? Your purpose is showing, trying to display the country. Either you are planning to display the country code, or you want to plan to display the country name, which one you want to display. So here are the two options whenever you run the report, right? So this report will be run automatically whenever user is going to click on the drop down, right? Automatically this will use as the report definition of list source. This will run the report definition from the case from the screen level itself. When user is clicking like this entire process will be run. So it will run the report definition. After running the report definition, data is going to hold under one properties, right? So this properties you are going to utilize here under property for value, property for display text. Property for display text means which property you want to display and which property value you want to store it. Some cases we will store both as same. In some cases I want to store the country code only, but I want to display country name in this UI level, but in the backend I want to store the value of country code. So when you click on dot, right, those values will come here. You can keep it anything, or if you want to display and store in the same value, you can keep the same thing, or else you can change that. And once I click on submit, and once I click on save this one and go back to the case level and actions and refresh. So here when you click on this, right, you can trace it even if you click on this. So whenever you click on this, right, automatic this section will have the source of this report definition will run. It will retrieve the data, whatever the properties the data is present in the backend, that country code will be picked, and in the display purpose country name will be picked. You can see all the country results will come like this. This is the way we can give the source to the properties in that section. So whenever you click again, so once I click it again, right, again the same process will work. Again it will hit the database. Again it will bring the results. Like this user is going to click multiple times means these many times the database interactions will happen. To avoid this one, we are going to use the data pages. Means these many times the cache memory will run, like these many times database hittings will happen. Right now the data is very limited, right? It's only 5 records. It won't be that much problem. But when you have huge data to load and display it to the user, right, let's say 10,000 records, 5,000 records, that time the loading process it may vary, right? Because of that performance issues will come until the data is getting loaded, right? Your screen will be loading, it will show to the user. This is not the appropriate one to display like this. To avoid that will happen whenever you're clicking continuously, some database hittings are going to happen, means it will work in that way. So to avoid that only we are going to utilize data pages. Now before doing that, I just want to show you, if I update the table, let's go back to the table. Let me add something called Nepal. Once I update, right, so right now I update a new thing. If I go back to this one and when I click, right, automatically the transaction will be updated, because this every time hitting is going to happen, right? So 1 second, let me refresh this. So this will be updated here. So this case is already loaded. So whenever you click on that, right, automatically it will be displayed here like this. So every time the transaction will be interactive. So we need to avoid those things sometimes. But sometimes the data is going to the every time this hitting database is not an approach. But we can give this report definition as source to data page. So let's say I'm already giving the source to a data page under the fetch countries, right? So this data page we can use it over there. Come back to here. Now go back to the section again. Change the report definition to data page. You need to give your data page name, and once you run the data page, right, so the data page is going to give you a result, right? So once you click on dot, which property you want to store in the backend and which property value you want to store it in the to display. So select this one and save it. So this time what will happen, whenever you use the source of data page, the first time when you are hitting, right, let's say I'm going to change here. Previously it was 6 records, right? I'm again removing Nepal and go back to here. Let me refresh one more time and click on go button. Let me select this country. So those values will be populated. Even now it is updated. So first time it is fetching the data. Next time when you click on this, right, rather than fetching data, it will go and look into the clipboard, because first time data page is going to get run. That data page is going to stored under the clipboard. So right now I haven't submitted, right? So directly you can open the some kind of thread tab. So under this you can search for your data page. You can see d and d underscore fetch countries is already storing when you are once you are changing. So these results is having 5 records, right? So next time when you click on drop down, rather than fetching the database, first it will come and check this data page. Whatever the results are present, it will show this one only. So how it will happen until what time means that way is going to depend on your data page scopes. That will be dependent on your scope level. So thread level means on each transaction, on each case type, in the case level, it will be updated. Requester means I will show you this tomorrow because it is going to be somewhat long like discussion is needed. So this is how we need to display on the screen level. This is how we need to give in the section level as a providing the source to the country level like this. So once you provide the source, even if you are changing the data, right, this is not going to change. If you are even updating the data in the country table, right, let me take again and try to click on this or trying to run it, refresh. So thread is going to work like even if you click on this one, right, so it is going to come, right. So thread will be updated once you refresh the case or once you create the case, once you create a new case. For those of the things it will work, but when you click, once you create the requester, right, once the user is login until he logs up, the data will be same. Like the scope of giving the database, the scope of storing the data in the backend, that will be dependent on thread requester and node. I just want to take one more session for this to expand more and explain more how it is going to be useful, because this is the main point in the data page concept. Now let's understand this. This is the one we are going to do this right now.
Like,
So
hi Rakesh, I have one question. When we best way to choose that source, like which one, like report definition is good for, or page list is good?
you
Which
mean
one,
data page or
database?
report definition, right? You're asking.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes.
The
Which one
data
is,
page is the approachable one, because we
and
should not, we should avoid that hitting database multiple times. So that is the reason this cache memory is going to helpful. Then you may have some question like, if I use this database then I don't get the updated data, means where there these scopes are useful. Once you get understand
okay,
about the scopes, right, then you will get more
okay,
information like hitting, we can avoid the hitting the databases, as well as we can use sometimes data is going to be constant, there won't be much changes. Sometimes the data may be changed, but it is going to depends on the user. When user
okay,
logs in, whatever the updated data you want to see, those data only it is going to be displayed. If user like user is some applications are like this, like let's say if you see the weather conditions, or if you are observing any kind of cricket score, right, in the crickbus when you are observing, once you launch the application, once you log into the crickbus, when you load it, right, so the crickbus information first, whatever the data is present, it will show like that until you refresh. Until you refresh, whatever the
yes,
score it might be, it won't be updated, right?
yes.
So
But
that when,
in some time he it automatically updated in the for the live matches.
so in
But
that case
how?
you have to take the report definition. So that is the reason. So what kind of the business function, what kind of business requirement you have, in that in those cases we need to update this data page or report definition. So it's completely on business structure. Like if you are getting the updated data each second, if you want the updated information, right, then you have to go with the report definition. But sometimes we don't need each transaction. Once user is login and once user is checking some things, if you want to do, if you want to give the results and if you want to show the result, After that you don't need to update. Those are some business functionalities, business requirements. Sometimes the data might not change, then what is the point of providing report, hitting these all the transactions? So that is going to completely depends on our idea, like whatever the functionalities is, it might be you need to think think and use these things. Okay, so once I explain this complete about scopes and modes, right, you will understand like which one to choose, which one to not choose. In tomorrow class I will
Yeah.
explain you like what is, I will give the provide examples to the thread and requester and node, and I will say few of the examples, like just now we discussed about the quick bus something, right? So based on that you may understand like in what scenario you have to go with the report, in what scenario you have to go with the data pages.
Yeah. Right.
Also I will explain you tomorrow about this key data pages, and also we'll discuss about the some theory part about the load management, and it is not going to be end. So we are going to use these all the functionalities with one good practical, then you will understand more about this one. So as theory wise, first we'll discuss after this data type, once we start the case type, right? So after that we'll discuss each of the thing in a practical way, including the responder transform, post processing, and also this load management, refresh strategy, everything. And after that I want to go with the parameter one. I will show you what is the point of parameters, usage of it. Okay, so
Okay.
just
Right.
finish the
Yeah.
yesterday's assignment first. Understand that data type import and export, providing the keys and generating PYGUID if no keys are present. Then
Yeah.
create these report definitions and try to utilize and in the section level, and also use these data pages as a source to this country of the sections. Okay, once you are done with
Okay.
this,
Right.
we'll proceed.